Okay, we're going to call today, Thursday, February 13th, 2025, the meeting of the Natrona County Parks Board Advisory Board to order. Can I get a roll call, please?
Jim Miller here.
Cordell Wistison here.
Doug Irvin here.
Crystal Bratvold here.
Rob Hill here on phone.
Michael Brown here.
Okay, will you please join me in the Pledge of the Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item up on our agenda is the appointment of officers. I will entertain any motions or nominations to the positions. The positions on the board are, again, chairman, vice chairman, and secretary. So do we have any nominations for any of those positions?
So I have a question.
Yes.
Does the vice chair have any inclination to want to serve at all?
No.
There went my idea.
My recommendation is Rob Hill.
I would second that. Rob, what is your thoughts on taking the chairmanship for the board?
Yeah, I would accept that. There are occasions I have to be gone. I'm gonna try and work with people on that. But yeah, I stand for that.
Okay, so we have a nomination and a second. All in favor of Rob Hill as chairman, say aye.
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 That sounded pretty unanimous to me. Okay, next position up is for vice chair. Do we have any suggestions or nominations for that?
I'd make a recommendation for Crystal.
Any seconds or Crystal, do you have any objections to that nomination?
No objections.
Okay, I'll second that. We have a voice vote for Crystal as vice chair. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And then the final position is secretary. Do we have any nominations for that?
Again, Cordell Wistison.
And Cordell, do you have any objections to that nomination?
Small reservations, but I'll accept.
Okay, can I have a second for the motion for Cordell as a secretary of the board?
I'll second.
Okay, can I get a voice vote for Cordell as secretary? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Then, Rob, would you like to take over the remainder of the meeting, or would you like myself to continue just for the duration of this meeting since you're on the phone? Looks like he might be on. Okay, so I guess I'll continue for today. Looks like we lost him.
Well, we got the important part.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll continue and keep Rob up to date. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the January 9th minutes. We don't have the copy, but as Michael had distributed, could I have a motion with regards to the minutes?
I move we accept the minutes on January 9th as stated.
Okay, can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, those are, yeah, that is approved. Reports.
Put him back on. That call.
So we can try that.
So you dial 1307.
I just,
Did you have to dial 9 to get an outside line? Sorry.
I need to watch and learn.
Thank you.
Okay, Rob, we got you back.
Okay, thank you.
We just approved the minutes and we're starting the reports from the Parks Director. Michael, take it away.
Okay, on the mountain, stop that for a second. Rob, would you like me to send you a picture of our, agenda?
Please.
Okay, Michael, you can continue.
Okay, I don't have a whole lot. The mountain update, the Cass Mountain Trail Center is open and operational. The last weekend we had high school races on Friday and Saturday, and we had middle school races on Saturday. Everything went pretty well. Lodge is open. Everybody seemed to enjoy it. I believe we had, after the middle school race started Saturday afternoon, there were still like 110 vehicles in the parking lot, so it was very well attended and lots of folks. We're gonna have another middle school race this Saturday. I don't remember which schools, but there'll be 3 school buses up there. So we'll be blocking off Skunk Hollow for bus parking again, just to facilitate as many vehicles to be in the upper parking lot so people don't have to walk from Bear Trap. The fire alarm system has been mostly installed. The contractor will be up there tomorrow installing some of the panels. So hopefully early next week, we will get a final maximum occupancy from the fire marshal. At a minimum, I believe that's gonna be 200. It may be in excess of that somewhat, but that'll be for the fire marshal and the fire chief to determine. But everything's going well. Grooming's kind of as we can. There's not a lot of snow. It's getting pretty thin, but yeah, that's kind of the update on Casper Mountain for the most part. Actually, one more thing. The biathlon, they do have their agreements in place, and I believe they started grooming. Actually, they did groom last Sunday, 13K. So they're operational over there now.
Just an addition onto that, Michael, there, on race day, Saturday, there were 450 kids skiing and over 250 spectators. So the building got very well used, and a ton of great comments came from a lot of people.
Thanks.
Excellent.
One more item about the new building. The lobby is open from 9 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. We have a door control. We have an alarm system that goes on after that. The banquet hall will be open Wednesday through Sunday. We have staff that'll open and operate that from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. I did want to put a note out for folks. The bathroom faucets are manual handle faucets. They are not automatic. And so the other morning we came in and we had a faucet that was running all night. Just please be sure that shuts down, because that can drain our well. It can overload our septic system. And so we don't want any of that. And, you know, if we have these instances happen more often than not, then we're going to have to adjust access to the building. So I just want to put that out there. But other than that, it's operating pretty well. I think folks are enjoying being able to go in there and warm up for a minute or two, even at night.
Do you think that was accidental?
I don't know if it was accidental or intentional.
That's what I.
So
I wonder if we need to put a sign up in all those bathrooms saying, please turn off water. It's common sense, but
It's common sense, we can, but I hate to overwhelm the building with signs.
So
So-
the staff that's in there, do they do an exit check out of curiosity?
Yeah, they do, but they're there from, around 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Wednesday through Sunday.
Gotcha. So they're not there.
Right,
9:30.
and I believe this happened on a Tuesday. So yeah, we're working out some of those kinks, but if the public will help with that, that'd be great. Not a whole lot going on at Pathfinder in Alcova. We had the Hog Derby recently. That's the ice fishing derby at Pathfinder. As far as I know, it was a success. They didn't, they had ice, they had access. So I think it went over pretty well, but I don't know the overall numbers and turnout that they had for it. But I believe it was a decent weekend. Other than that, we're doing day-to-day maintenance at the lake. I've had some changeovers and staffing there that we're working to fill those vacancies. And then that's about all I have. Are there any questions?
were you gonna just, go ahead, Mike or Rob?
Would like to compliment you on it. I was up there too and talked to people. What I saw was the craftsmanship on that building was well used. People all over the state were there. It was great. The only question I have is, what's the long-term plan on furniture and actually I have two questions. That would be one. And then the second one is, are we gonna be able to lease that out to groups if they wanna have meetings up there, or is that still on the table?
Yeah, that was the whole intent. So long-term use is trying to see what types of groups can utilize the building. Obviously, it's a restroom facility for folks and a place to have their lunch. As for rentals, we've got some fees set up. Weekday fees, weekend fees, and then a discounted fee for nonprofits and government entities of the sort. Game and Fish has shown interest in using it. Central Wyoming Trail Alliance has shown interest in using it. I believe we have some weddings that are trying to get set up for the summer. So yeah, really, did that answer your question, Rob?
That's a great answer, and I wonder if we can utilize some of those funds from that for enhancements or furniture or anything. I don't know if you're gonna piecemeal out some furniture or what in there, but if you have a revenue source, maybe that's something that can be used
So at this
to build it out.
at this point in time, Rob, I have banquet tables on order that should be here in the next week or so. I had budget for replacement chairs. However, that was utilized to purchase the kitchen sinks and counters that were cut from the original contract. I brought up the old freezer and fridge. They're plugged in and operating. We're just going to verify that they're keeping temperature and everything before we really do a solid cleanup on those. And so, new chairs would be nice, but we have the chairs from the old lodge that are usable. The tables that were in there over the weekend, those are just temporary till the banquet tables come in. And then there were 3 couches that were in the old lodge, and those have been in storage. And at some point, we're going to work on getting those up there and installed around the fireplace.
Great, so will the revenue from rental stay with that building, or does it go back to the county?
So at this point in time, it'll be just like our trail passes. It'll go back into the county general fund, and then the county commissioners will approve a budget of what we can spend out of the general fund for, if I specify furnishings or decorations or whatever. I don't know if there'll probably be a budget line item just for the trail center, that'll have an operating cost fund and, you know, some additional improvements to the building. We also have, in addition, the IT department's, out of their budget is working on purchasing monitors. There's one monitor that goes in the banquet hall, and then one in the hallway for display or for presentation at meetings or banquets and whatnot. The kitchen is designed as a warming kitchen. We do not have a range or microwave at this time, so that'll be budget requests for the future. But, you know, if you cater it, you can serve the food out of there. If you potluck it, you can serve your crock pots and things out of there. And so that's kind of the intent. That's why we got the fridge and freezer, so if, you know, somebody's having family reunion with cake and ice cream or a wedding, they have a place to keep it cold and serve it from there. So we're progressing along. It may be a little slower than everybody wants, but we have a fully functional building that's ready to rent space out to.
Michael, a little add-on to that. I believe in storage, there is a microwave that is available. And there's 2 benches that are in storage that was donated by 2 different groups. That was in the old lodge. It's available also.
Okay.
I can show you where that storage is. Not at my house.
Yeah, and I'll have to probably clarify possibly with the health department on microwave, whether they're gonna require a commercial microwave or a residential one works, so we may have to look at that and see what's allowed in there, you know, that they're not doing inspections necessarily because we're not a commercial kitchen, but, you know, they may require appropriate appliances in that space. I'm not sure, so I'll check on that too.
Any other questions for Michael for the mountain?
One more on that, Michael. I've been approached by a couple of people wanting to know if they could donate skis to put in that building for decorations and whatnot. We just need to.
So that goes along with what I was going to ask. Is there an aesthetic style guide that we're working off of?
Decor at this time, let's put it this way. We're gonna take it slow and figure out how best to decorate. My staff has had some good ideas to get the community involved and whatnot, but at this time, I just want to get us operational. The building is a really clean look as it is. I mean, there's some available space for decor, but I don't want to overcomplicate it, and I want to make sure, you know, that it
Welcoming?
yeah, it's welcoming. It matches that, you know, the aesthetic of it. But I also want to, you know, pay homage to the traditional snowshoe ski community there. So yeah, we're gonna take it slow. I may end up creating maybe a little subcommittee or mini committee to provide me some ideas, provide the Parks Department ideas, and then probably pass those along to the higher ups to confirm or deny those are good ideas. But we're gonna take it slow. That'll be a request in the next budget cycle, which may or may not be
Out of-
approved.
Out of curiosity, if it's going to be used for rental for weddings and such, is there going to be any guidelines of what they can and cannot have on premises as for
Yeah,
how they set up?
we are developing that right now. We have an application, we have a rental policy, you know, no glitter, no tape on the walls, helium balloons have to be weighted. Those are just some of the things I can recall from that. The policies are right now a 2-page policy. We're trying to keep it short and sweet, but, and staff has been looking at other venues, the Nick Museum, the Tape Pump House, Hogadon, what the college, you know, allows, in their different venues. So, We're trying to meld, the rec center is another one. And so we're trying to get that all figured out, but we're getting pretty close. We've got a pretty good draft, and I think our next step is to meet with legal and probably risk management, have them review what we're proposing.
One more question, Michael, on, we didn't talk anything about Hell's Half Acre.
It's the same as last month. On my desk. It's a work in progress. So, yeah.
Any other questions for Michael and the Parks Director?
Quick question on the Health Half Acre. Has the school district, been in contact or
Yes.
plans to work on that?
Yes, they've been in touch. I need to provide them some information. I just need to get it to them, and I gotta get it to them soon. It's just a matter of finalizing a few things so I can get that to them.
Is there anything we can help you with on that?
Uh,
Rob's volunteering.
If you guys wanna do some construction drawings and whatnot, and, what I'm kinda waiting on or working on is they can't build all of the sections for almost 300 feet of boardwalk this semester. So I'm trying to determine how many sections they can build so that that's the amount of material that's ordered. Because I hate to order treated lumber and have it set for another 9 months not being used. So that's the fine line I'm running right now. Because it'll all twist.
Won't turn, is that what you just said?
It'll all twist into a knot.
Yeah.
So. But I'm getting real close to getting down to that pile on my desk again.
Any other questions for Michael? Okay, thank you, Michael. The last item on the agenda is to discuss the Parks Board of Trustees and the potential future of the advisory board. There's lots of unknowns with where the BOCC and the Parks Board of Trustees and where that's going, and that's still in flux. And I think we all know that's changing from week to week as things are developing. But I wanted to have a open discussion forum amongst the board members here as to how do we want to approach, and if we want to approach the BOCC or the Parks Board of Trustees to assist in the deliberation and the discussion about the future of how the parks boards are going to be run and governed.
Maybe I can give a little insight before you guys have your discussion.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
The Parks Board of Trustees met, was it last Wednesday? A week ago Wednesday. And you guys can watch that on YouTube. Towards the end of that, I brought up what's going to happen to the Parks Advisory Board. It's my understanding that this advisory board, the fate of it lies within the county commissioner's authority, not the Parks Board of Trustees authority. Because the county commissioners.
Yes,
are the
this
ones
was
that-
established by a
Yeah.
resolution by the BOCC.
And so, it's really up to them. If I'm correct, there may be some discussion at the work session part next Tuesday.
Yeah, that is actually on the agenda for the afternoon next week.
Would it be appropriate for representatives of this board to attend that work session? Should the commission have any request for input from the existing board?
I think it would be highly appropriate. I can't tell you which direction that's gonna go at this point in time, but I personally, I would appreciate for representation from
Yeah.
the board.
I
being
will
there.
definitely make sure I'm available and anyone else that is on the board that
What time is
could
it?
come.
I am not sure exactly what time we have it on the schedule. I'll know tomorrow. The schedule will be sent out. The agenda will be
What
Yeah.
day is, I'm so sorry, what
next
day?
Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, the 18th?
Mhm.
Yeah, I get copied on those, so I'll distribute to the board members.
So may I just ask, because my mind hurts sometimes. So I was under the impression that there was a resolution that was passed to avoid this conflict, correct?
No,
No, there was a resolution passed to create a Parks Board of Trustees.
Okay. And the Parks
The
Board of
statutory.
Trustees, the statutory board is the Board of County Commissioners,
right
correct?
now.
Well, it's
Right
seated,
now.
it's seated by the commissioners, but during those meetings, they are trustees.
Okay,
During commissioner meetings, they are commissioners. So they have two different, it's kind of like the,
Board of Equalization.
yes, correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
and so at one point when we were talking about this sometime last year, it was, we didn't think anything was gonna change. And just in my reading of the media, it has changed. Is that correct?
So maybe I can answer that.
I'm sorry.
The intent was to create a board of trustees to get our rules adopted.
Right,
And then they would be the ones to do that, and that would be seated by the commissioners. This has evolved into more, under statute, you're required to have a statutory board. Some of the board of trustees feel like it needs to evolve even further and go back to the way it was prior to 96, where appointed citizens sat as the trustees, and they want to push it to that way. Their draft bylaws, as I read them, kind of go in that direction. They're more of a full set of bylaws for a full trustee board versus just being simply this board of trustees as the commissioners. That's my interpretation. There are individuals on this that want to go one direction. There are individuals we have statute, so we have to follow statute, which means we have to go this direction. And there are other individuals on there that are more back to what we discussed a year ago, just really there for policy and adopting rules and setting some of the standards. The way the bylaws read right now, the Board of Trustees would prepare the budget with the assistance of the Parks Director, and they would, present that to the county commissioners. They would hire and fire the Parks Director. They would lay out what the capital projects would be for that. So if the Board of Trustees change from just the commissioners, then it will become a full trustee board of citizens that were appointed by the commissioners to do all that work.
So evolve into what the original statutory
Right.
board structure was.
so in 96, I was a child. Why was the reason they went from that statutory board to an advisory board?
Embezzlement.
Yeah, wrongdoings.
Wrongdoing. So
Yes.
I guess I'm stupid. I don't understand, because I thought we were grandfathered in.
This is, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is where we're in a kind of legal gray area.
I'm really
Because-
trying just to, I'm sorry.
We just, when that dissolution was done, it may not have been done correctly, or even if it is possible to dissolve a statutory board. So that long ago
Right.
grayness is what we're struggling to overcome.
So in 30 years, basically 29 years, this just came up now.
No,
This has actually been on the topic
Okay.
from a couple of people that have been trying to push this for a while.
Is there a
We
valid,
have some change in interpretation as far as what we can do and what we can't do. And that's basically where a lot of this originated. It's,
is there a good reason to look at that model? I'm just asking. The pro to that, I don't understand.
Well, the biggest thing right now is we're told that we have to move into the statutory board. Now, what the statutory board actually has to be is something that can be interpreted in many ways, because it all depends on what your bylaws are and how you set it up and what you do as far as what they have to do and what they don't have to do. So we have several statutory boards already in the county, and none of them function exactly the same way. They're all different because of how they were set up. And so that's where that interpretation comes in.
So are all these statutory boards going through the same?
No,
No, because they didn't have that original problematic history.
Gotcha.
And the statute, the state statute that talks about a statutory board for parks also specifies this for airports and fairgrounds.
Okay.
Now, we also have the library board, which is statutory, I think. Yeah, and
They're
that's
all
under
under
different
different
statutes.
statutes.
And the health department
Is
is
a
also
different
under a
statute.
different statute. But airport, fairgrounds, and parks all fall under one statute.
No.
No.
No?
No, they do not.
Okay,
That's something that people have misunderstood.
okay.
They're
That's why
different.
I'm sorry,
see,
you guys.
that's
That's
my
why I'm
misunderstanding.
No, that's what some people said, but they're covered under different statutes. This is a recreational board. And that's what this covers. That's what this falls under. Those are not considered recreational boards. Fair boards have their own regulations, what they can do, what they can't do. Airport boards have their own regulations on what they can and can't do. So this is totally separate. So that got thrown in, and it shouldn't have been together because they weren't the same thing. There's some challenging things that are in the legislation, or as far as the statute goes. Because it says you may establish a recreation board. And if you do establish a recreation board, this is what you have to follow. So,
So
Yeah.
our problem is we had one and it might not have been dissolved correctly. Is that what my mind is?
that's what they come back on and say, because the statute was passed in 94. This board was actually created in 95. Because it was created immediately after that. And I'll go back and I found I've got the original stuff as far as how it was set up and everything else. And so it just depends. With the statutory board, you can regulate how much authority they have and how much they don't have.
And that would come from the BOCC, correct? Or would
Yeah,
that come-
yes, it will. Well, initially, yeah, it would. And then those boards can actually change their bylaws accordingly.
Yeah.
So,
So the BOCC can establish with original broad guidelines, and then the board itself, through its bylaws, establishes how it's going to function
Okay.
within those.
that's the part that,
So out of curiosity, why are those that want to make this change not communicating it with this particular advisory board?
That's an excellent question. And
Civility, right?
well, this is one thing I think that most people on this board would agree is that personally, I feel the board is underutilized. We're not really stretched even to our minimal goals outlined by our bylaws. But I would hope in the future that this board can be of better service to the Parks Department, the community, and the BOCC in general. And I think that is something that I would like to see much more communication between the BOCC as a whole. We always have a representative like Dave that shows up, and that we greatly appreciate that.
I've never seen anybody but Dave.
Yes. So, I think that is one thing that would behoove this board, should we be able to send one or more representatives to the work session, is to propose a bit larger cooperation for the duration of whatever this board's form is in the future, as well as help provide insight, since we have a deeper institutional knowledge on this board about the park system than the BC, who rotates regularly, does. And we can lend that insight and history and hopefully provide some insight and information to guide some future direction.
To answer Chris's question a little bit, the only reason you see Commissioner North here, most likely is he's the liaison to parks. So he's kind of on the hook a little bit to come here and then pass his communication on. As for this advisory board, you know, since I've been here, it's been helpful. You guys have reviewed designs, summer trail master plans, lodge plans, things of that, and we provided those recommendations up to the county commissioners as kind of the intent of this advisory board is to provide community input and recommendations on projects that we're doing. Lately, there's not a lot going on because all those decisions have really been made, but these rules. But yeah, I think this board could be facilitated better and just figuring out how that should work and what responsibilities can be laid upon the board. Besides just community input and advice, would be nice to get a better understanding of if this board is disbanded and there is a board of trustees, then that, from my position, that becomes, or from the Parks Director position, that becomes different. It's not the Parks Director coming to this board and requesting advice on projects. It will be the Board of Trustees basically gathering that input and directing the Parks Director to do this project and not that project. And depending on how it's set up, some of the statutory boards simply, the authority of the county commissioners is to approve or not approve their budgets.
Yeah.
As for capital projects and how that money's spent, that's up to the Board of Trustees. So,
So in that
see
form,
how this goes.
the interaction between the Parks Department and the board would be vastly different.
Yes.
So,
And Crystal, just for history,
yes,
I've actually been associated with this board for 6 years now.
right.
So, because I actually sat on the board prior to becoming a commissioner. So, and the reason why I was on that board was because on this board and wanted to be portion of part of it is because of my concern for our park system, not just on the mountain, but out at the lake and everywhere else. And I think those are things that need to be done, that you need to have somebody that's interested in what we can do all the way across the board for all of our facilities and not just specific ones.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Bruno, but we came on right around the same time, and that was one of the main questions that the two commissioners that I spoke with. It was if I had more, if I was going to be equal amongst the mountain and the lake, if I had, if I owned property at one, and they asked some very intense questions, and so I guess I thank you for that insight.
I've been discussing a lot here. Is there any other comments the board would like to bring up on this topic?
Just a quick question on the bills that we're working through. James, it looks like they failed to consider the last bill. So, is there any other pieces? I mean, it's obviously too late at this point. Do you see any amendments on anything out there that would apply to this, or is this would it be done in Cheyenne?
For this year, I think it's done. They have enough, I mean, looking at, I've been watching everything, and I know you have too, Rob. Um, it seems like the bills that they're more concentrated on this year are obviously gonna be property tax and, and the budget bills. So that doesn't surprise me that those have taken, the top seat on their priority list. Um, So, the
Are we the
bills,
only
bills live and die all the time. I mean, the number of bills that didn't make it out of committee this year, or even introduction, it was amazing the number of them that didn't even make it into introduction this year. So, but that's what happens when you have almost 600 bills that are introduced in a very short time to get them through.
Are we the only entity being affected by this?
I believe so.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry, my
No,
ADHD is strong today.
I believe this is probably the only entity being affected by this. And it really comes down to how the Board of Trustees is set up and who's appointed on that. Obviously, that Parks Board of Trustees can create subcommittees underneath and whatnot. One of my concerns right now is last Wednesday I had a Parks Board of Trustees meeting. This Thursday I have a Parks Advisory Board meeting. So to the community, which board should they be addressing with their concerns? Do they address both? And so we're in kind of a transition phase, so it's like, are we gonna stay with the advisory board, and that's the community contact, and the Board of Trustees is more of a formality with more technical aspects like adoption of rules and whatnot? But if somebody wants to comment on the rules that are out there for public comment right now, should they have come to this meeting, or should they go to the Board of Trustees meeting to present those comments? That's, having two boards may get confusing, it may be beneficial, I don't know, I don't have a direct opinion on it, I just have some questions like you guys do.
Yeah, that's historically been one of the challenges is with the advisory board and then the decision-making powers resting with the BOCC, the actual flow of how much information from the advisory board is really considered by the decision-making board. And that may continue if we continue to have two boards. But
I guess a comment that I've had since I'm the elder person on this board is early on, we had great communication with the board. We had a lot of community contact that would go through us, and we would bring them to the board, and it was a really good working relationship. And that went on for years and years and years. And I would say just recently, as in the last couple of years, it has changed, where we're not being asked on our opinions or even questioned on anything that we come up with. So I question why the change of direction has taken place.
We had 4 new commissioners 2 years ago.
yes, anecdotally, that would be my observed experience. Because prior to my becoming on this board, I attended many of the Parks Board meetings and viewed the interactions between the BOCC and the advisory board, and there seemed to be much more bi-directional communication in the past. But maybe that's something we can work towards reestablishing. Any other questions or comments on before we close out for the night?
So you're going to attend the work meeting?
I
and you're
will
going to
definitely
do it.
attend Tuesday, and when I get the agenda, I will forward it to the rest of the board and invite anyone that is able to attend.
Quick clarification on the officer positions. When are those effective?
Those will be effective immediately. I was just running it for you, Rob, since you're on the phone and might not be able to have, but that is effective immediately.
That's probably one.
Thank you.
Before you close,
Yes.
I do want to express my gratitude to every one of you and what you've done and the amount of time that you've spent going through things. I think that's something that unless you're part of this board and you've been associated with it, a lot of people don't understand just how much time actually goes into a lot of the things that you've done, that you've looked over. And there has been a big change. I look back 6 years ago and what this board actually did and the amount of information that came through us that went up to the BOCC at that time. And, we hashed out a lot of stuff. I mean, it took us a long time to get through the parks rules because there were so many things that we had to deal with at the time, and so many changes as far as what happened. So, things have changed a lot. Part of that too is having several different parks directors over that time frame.
It's been a very tumultuous
It
5
has.
years.
It has. And so, but I do want to express that to every one of you. I want that on the record that I do appreciate everything that you guys have done, and the time that you spent, to try to make this better.
Little addition to that, Dave, being involved in the parks rules, we as a group worked on that for over a year. And then it was presented to the sheriff's department, and they put their comments in it. And then we got back with the sheriff's department. There was a lot of back and forth communication, which was good, what they could enforce, what they couldn't enforce. So it was a long process. And we also worked very closely with the legal department. And they were very involved in it at that time. So it was a long process, and it just didn't happen overnight, but that's a communication that we used to have that was really beneficial for the community.
Yeah.
And I was happy to be part of that.
And I appreciate you adding that in, Jim, because that was, a lot of people think that it was just the members of the board that came up with all that stuff, and it definitely was not. It was definitely a corporate effort to make sure that everything was covered that we could cover, and that, that we addressed the issues that we had at hand. So, and working with the sheriff department to make sure that they had input was a big deal. So,
There was also community involvement in that too.
yes, it was. There
So
were a lot
There
of,
was a number of meetings that was involved with the community.
yeah,
It just didn't happen.
I remember this room being full a lot of times.
Oh,
So,
And I'd like to thank Commissioner North because he has always been there for this board, and coming from this board, we know that the public lands in this county are near and dear to his heart as it is to ours. So we really appreciate you always being our contact point and being there with our shared love of these public spaces.
yeah, I'd like to thank you also, Michael, and Commissioner North for the efforts that you've had with the Parks Board. It's been a pleasure working with you both.
Well, hopefully it continues.
I was gonna say, this sounds like a big old goodbye,
We
you
will
guys.
Well,
see what's coming, but
Jim and I are gonna step into the background. Let you guys run it now. Hear that, Rob? Okay, I'll entertain any motions to adjourn the meeting then.
So moved.
Do I have a second?